Well, welcome everyone. It's James J here. Bring my camera up so you can see me. Um, I'm really excited today to have my very first Feng Shui teacher, Sean Zenja, who's going to join us today and teach us about natural use of natural crystals in Feng Shui and how to clear energies, invigorate an environment, clear a space, and you know, how to set them up and their use. And Sean has been practicing feng shui for over 30 years, right, Sean?
I started in 1989.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's been around. He introduced my wife Helen and I to Professor Lin Yun, who became our main teacher of feng shui. And so I've known Sean a long time. And without further ado, I'll let Sean take over. And here you go, Sean.
Thanks so much. Thanks, James, and thanks, Brenny, and thank all of you for joining us today. As Master Lin Yun used to say, it's always wonderful to have the opportunity to be together. And without you, there'd be no point in doing this. I'm really thrilled to be able to share with you what some of what I've learned and been able to combine literally over the last 25 years. It's 26 years now working with Feng Shui. I got my start with Master Lin Yun. And here's a view of him back in the old days, and was fortunate to become one of his first Western advanced students and disciples, and got to go literally all around the world teaching and consulting with Feng Shui. And in 1998, I was invited to Brazil. And I was invited again to teach and consult. And in Brazil, I found a whole abundance of crystals, gems, and minerals, something I had been familiar with and loved, but more on more of a casual basis. And so here I was in their country of origin, and my Feng Shui students at the time were studying crystals. And so it was a very good interchange. They started teaching me about using crystals for healing, for energetic purposes. And then I began combining them with my Feng Shui. And so over the last 18 years, it's been a process of integrating the natural crystals with Feng Shui, and it's resulted in what could be considered a new school of Feng Shui, crystal energy Feng Shui, but it actually goes back to like the oldest way of approaching Feng Shui, because the crystals represent the most pure, concentrated, organized, active, and in a mineralogical sense, alive way to tap into and use and incorporate the essential chi energy of the earth. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, give you a little introduction into it. And it's important to realize that unlike regular Feng Shui studies, where there's a huge, huge, huge body of information, many, many different approaches, and some of them seem to conflict with each other or give different results, or you can get to a point of wondering, well, what do we really do? The crystals cut through all that because they get back to the absolute basic energy. And so now most of the Feng Shui I'm doing, and with James and Helen J's help, I'm putting together a comprehensive program for people to learn how to be crystal energy Feng Shui practitioners. I worked out all the details and basic curriculum last year, and through the help of a friend of mine who's had a lot of experience too doing work with crystals, but not so much with Feng Shui, came up with a 2-level training, level 1 personal, level 2 professional. And so with James and Helen's help, we're going to get that into a full 70-hour program. So a little bit of an introduction. When you're working with crystals, and we're going to go outside now, you can see this is Sausalito, California, located our gallery. And we've been here for 5 years now. I started out just bringing crystals out of my suitcases and making them available to clients and friends. And then in 2002, I went to the area where they mine the crystals. And was inspired to start, actually the crystals invited me to start a complete new business. And so for years, we went to shows, and we had a place in North Sausalito where it was more like a warehouse showroom. And 5 years ago in March, this location became available. I'll see if I can get back and give you the whole view. This was the recently remodeled historic store in Sausalito, downtown Sausalito. 80s had actually been a crystal store. Through the fence, you can look over, and I'm not sure if it'll come through, but that's the Bay of San Francisco, and looking over at the Bay Bridge. So it's a beautiful environment. Every day, tourists and local people come in from all over the world. And it's just been amazing experience. Now, one of the things with crystals, and I discovered this at the first conference that I went and taught about crystals, is that you can use them to direct energy. And so we have these 3 crystals right at the doorway. You can see this one here, and these are all quartz crystals. Quartz you can think of as the foundation crystal to use for energy work. And so we have this big natural smoky crystal, and smoky quartz is very, very good for grounding, filtering out negative energies, and improving someone's overall feelings. They might be worried about something, concerned about something, and usually those will just dissipate, and they'll feel better without even kind of knowing the process. Now here are 2 large quartz crystals, and these are the grade that we call our energy grade. They're not cosmetically perfect and clear, but they're large, powerful, and the most effective ones to use to go and direct energy into the site. And also it balances, takes away any negative components of it, and gentle, positive way. So here we're bringing in, and now we're coming into the crystal. Now, in any location, one of the most important things is what's in the center. So here's a huge double terminated crystal. And you can see that termination means it has a point on the end. And so here's a point on this end, a natural point. Here's another one on this end where we have the light. And if I come around to the side, you can see that this crystal has like a yellowish color here. Now, this is a type of quartz crystal that's called citrine. Citrine is very good for emotional balance. They call it the merchant stone. Has a lot to do with prosperity. And this piece also has additional features where it has another mineral, blue tourmaline, on the surface. And you can see with the light shining through with the blue. And in the evening, if this is the only piece that's lit, it actually has this beautiful greenish blue glow, very magical. And so it moves energy in and out of the space and really holds the center. And one of the things I wanted to do is just give you a basic understanding of some of the main styles of crystals that we use in the crystal energy feng shui.
Hey, Sean.
Yes.
Sean, I just wanted to mention to everybody, to get the best view, click on speaker view up in your right-hand corner. It'll make Sean's screen very large while he's talking. Otherwise, you see every muted screen. So just throw that in.
Thanks, James.
Okay.
Now, this is what we have. These are what we call our energy grade crystals. They're cosmetically, not perfect. Sometimes there's coating on the outside. But what's important is their mass and their energy. So here are some quartz crystals, and you can see they vary from being clear to kind of smoky. And just to the right of them are energy grade tourmaline crystals. And we'll talk about tourmaline in a little bit. Now, we started using these, and these form the foundation for grids. And grids are energetic arrangements of crystals that generate energy fields. And so what I'm going to do now is just kind of introduce the concept of gridding. So we're going to go in our back room here. You're seeing the inner workings of dynamic energy crystals, where we have all our back stock, and supplies where we pack from, our scales. And I laid out the sizing of the crystals to give you a sense. And it's very important when you're working with the crystals. This is the part of feng shui where size is important. And so here would be our small size energy grade crystals, our medium size, and our large size. We also have an extra large size. And you can see that there's some variety in coloring, shape, and size, but they all have a consistent mass, and that's what's important. And even though they're inexpensive crystals, you can see they're very nice with a lot of clarity. They'll have a lot of nice features. This shows the point, the termination. And here with our medium size, you can see that you could have one that's more large and chunky, and it'll have the same weight and the same mass and do the same job as one that might be longer and thinner. This also has additional minerals on the surface and included inside, and in this case it's hematite. And hematite is very, very good for grounding and stability. So even though the base of these crystals and the kind of these crystals would be, they're quartz, clear quartz, you can have other minerals that make them even stronger. So it's like getting a little bonus. And again, here is another, you can have, these are all the large size, and you can see some are longer and thinner, and this one will weigh about as much as this one that's shorter and fatter and do the same result. And this one has a coating on the outside, kind of mixture of clay and other minerals, other crystals on the surface. And even though it may be the least attractive from a cosmetic viewpoint, for someone that knows crystals and works a lot with crystals, they might go to this one first because they know from their experience that some of the most dinged up, crystals with some coating on the outside can be some of the most important, most powerful ones for energy work. Now, when we're using these crystals, the basic technique is making a grid. So just imagine that we have a square rectangular space, could be a house or a room. And the most common way to use these would be to go and put one in either each of the corners with the points facing in. I'm going to slide these others here out of the way so we get a sense of this. And it's the same technique, depending on the size. Now, the small size would be good for a small to medium-sized room. And doing them in this arrangement would bring in energy, so it would activate the space in a very balanced way. If there's any problems with earth energy on the site, from whatever kind of a source, it balances and harmonizes that and stabilizes the vibration. Now, this is the most common arrangement. Now, another way to do it would be to turn the points facing outward. You'll have the same effect of creating a balanced energy field, but what you're doing in this arrangement is like you're sending energy out and creating more of a clear, open space in the middle. Now, this is an arrangement that we often use in the home or an office of someone who's extremely, extremely sensitive. And they're really having problems with energies from, could be neighbors or other sources. And this gives them a clear, balanced, harmonious space. And one of the great things about the crystals is that you might say, well, which one do I need? What's going to be the best one for me or my client? And it's a very easy process to set your grid in place. It could be in the corners of the house or the corners of the room, or at points you determine the boundaries of an area and see how you feel with the points facing inward, and then turn them around and see how they are with the points facing outward. And that's one of the kind of the things I like about the crystal energy feng shui the best. And we'll move back to the gallery, you can get another sense of the amount of crystals we've accumulated over the years. This place is really taking on a life of its own. And unlike regular feng shui, doing regular feng shui cures where you're recommending something, maybe it's a standard cure.
I think you're covering your microphone, Sean. Can't hear you.
I think so. Yeah. Okay. Here. How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Good. So I apologize, everyone. This is new for me. I really love it, but I have to be careful of that. Let's hope I don't block the camera. So anyway, so you can feel the energy and decide what you want to do just based on the feelings. You don't have to wonder. It's very, very experiential. And what we found is that clients as well as students naturally take to this and immediately start participating in the process. So going back to some of our basic crystal types, we talked about the quartz crystals for energy, and another very, very important style, we're going to come back here to the black tourmaline. Black tourmaline is really great for protection, stability, and grounding. It has ability to repel negative energies and supports the immune system, and is very, very good for protecting and balancing and stabilizing situations where you might have problems with electromagnetic fields. And so sometimes what we'll do is we'll use the black tourmaline in connection with the regular energy grade quartz crystals to add in that function. Now, another one of our favorite crystal styles for crystal energy work is a type of quartz called citrine. And I'm just going to go in here. We have information cards with all of our crystals so that people can come in and we don't have to go and explain every facet of it, not that we can even remember all of them anymore. But citrine promotes emotional balance, removes fears, and facilitates psychic perception. It's known as the merchant stone. It empowers prosperity, sharing, and generosity, alleviates depression and stress, brings clarity of thought and intention, and increases confidence and willpower. Physically, it supports any problem or treatment involving the digestive system and helps with weight loss and eating disorders. Now, we really love citrine, and one of the things you can see is that we have crystals. These are polished crystals, which means that they've been through a process where the natural faces have been polished. Sometimes they've been shaped, and I'll show you the natural citrine pieces too. And then we also have a lot of jewelry, and this is something that really took off in the gallery here, because not only can you use the crystals for the Feng Shui effect, but also what you can do is use them for adjust your own personal Feng Shui. And how this works is kind of like the material of citrine has its own certain energy, and then you also have a gem effect. And so when light goes into the citrine crystal, and to give you a really good example on a big scale of this, how it works, here's our huge citrine crystal, weighs 35 kilos. Here we have natural citrine crystals below. We have polished ones around the outside. Again, jewelry. We always like to have a display where people can find anything they want. And the color's not coming through the absolute best, but this is a beautiful golden color. Let's see if you can see there are wonderful rainbows down inside. Rainbows and crystals are a major contribution to happiness. And this is a natural quartz crystal. And as I back up, you may be able to figure out what part of the gallery this is. We have the huge citrine crystal, again known as the merchant stone. We have a large amethyst, and I'll talk a little bit about amethyst coming up. Twin crystal, very, very good for partnership and relationship. Of course, we have some other solutions here. We have the 9-star Chi painting, the tracing the 9 stars, done by one of Professor Lin's, most kind of famous artist disciples. Green Tara, and then here's our fish tank. So by now I'm sure all of you have figured out that this is the wealth area of our gallery. So we use this, and it's very, very effective. And that's the big scale, and hidden away, and that's one of the beauties of the grids, is that they can be below a house, under a house, hidden away. And now you're really seeing the inner workings of our crystal gallery. This is a grid that we've set up underneath our sales counter. And it has amethyst, quartz, citrine, black tourmaline, probably some selenite for make sure it stays all cleared. And that's underneath. And then up above, we have this huge natural citrine crystal on the counter. And again, you can see it's directing the energy right straight through where people check out and we're with them. And then here's another little mini grid. And this is part of our training, how to set up small little mini grids. And they could be travel grids, grids to support health, or serve an energetic function. You can think of it as like little mini solutions using the crystal energy. And here we have 4 mini crystal points around a crystal sphere. And we're not doing this to make a lot of money. Obviously, that really helps with our business and supports our lifestyle. But having all this citrine in this area generates a real field of prosperity, and it helps people make their decisions about what crystals to bring with them. Some people come in here, and this is the first introduction they've ever had to crystals. They might be worried about it, concerned about it, and this just creates a nice balanced environment where they can really make an informed decision, without their fears and emotions intruding and kind of restricting it. Now, next type of crystal I'd like to talk about is amethyst. And here's a big, huge amethyst. It's part of an amethyst geode. You're talking about 107 kilos. And all of the crystals we have are all natural when it comes to the amethyst. Now, amethyst, it grows in solid basalt deposits. Voids occur naturally through erosion, and then crystal geodes form on the inside. And this geode can have some beautiful other types of minerals and colors in it. Classic straight amethyst is going to be more like this piece here. And you can see the deep, beautiful purple color, as well as all of the crystals combined. Now, in this shape, amethyst radiates out and is very excellent stone for prosperity. And I'm going to come over here, and again, we have it in all sizes. We have from small amethyst points. There's another amethyst shelf here, where bigger, different kinds of clusters. Single points are amethyst jewelry, spheres, and the qualities of amethyst are, it brings increased calm, balance, and awareness to one's thoughts, feelings, and higher consciousness, is very attractive to individuals beginning a profound deepening of their spirituality, and excellent for meditation, has a high vibration that is very powerful against all forms of pain, and its calming effect helps to eliminate anger, fear, and anxiety, helps in the treatment of headaches, insomnia, and addictions, can be placed in any space to promote overall healing and well-being by creating a calming and harmonizing atmosphere. Now we're going to go back over, and I'm going to show you just some of the ranges of color. So here's an information. So here's a geode where you can see the outside of it, and inside there are different levels of it. Other different pieces of amethyst, portions of geodes, and you get a sense of the wide color variation. Now, one of the things about the form of the amethyst, and here's some more pieces here. I'm going to come over to our big geode. This big geode weighs 157 kilos. So I think it's kind of, it's like over 345 pounds. And what you see here is, here's the outer part of the geode. So there would have been a front part coming around, and it's very rare to have them come out. What you normally have to do is glue them back together and coat the outside with a very, very thick layer of cement. But we only like to get the ones that are totally natural. Now with this shape, you can see that it goes inward. This one also has some calcite crystals on the inside. And when I go to the south of Brazil for amethyst, what you see are, there might be a couple dozen merchants from China. And what they're after is this style and shape of geode, because this is the one that everyone wants for Feng Shui in China, because it's associated with wealth, it attracts money, and the money goes and stays in the geode. And so when I'm there, there'll be huge lots, containers full, of material that's been picked out, and it's, bound directly for China. So we do have some of these, and again, we have all the complete natural ones, and it's hard to get them. But one thing I've discovered is that it's very important what the formation of the geode is. And when you have one like this, where it doesn't go in, but actually is more flat and has crystals that project, this has the effect of letting the energy radiate out into the room. And so while the standard Feng Shui type of geode that would be the most popular in China, I find in many cases these are more effective for crystal energy Feng Shui. In situations where you want to bring that energy into a home or an office, and instead of just having it accumulate away, this lets it radiate that energy back out into the space. Now I don't want to, now here's another major type of quartz for we use in our Feng Shui work. And this works excellently when you have, you want to do something for a relationship, maybe in the marriage area. And I'll zoom in here, and the rose quartz is the fundamental heart chakra stone and symbolizes the power and healing potential of unconditional love. Through its gentle vibration, it brings remembrance of the essence of love, free from guilt and fear, and fosters forgiveness, higher consciousness, and compassion. Helps to expand and create a new reality in life and with the universe. And by providing the ability to reprogram the heart for developing, maintaining self-love, esteem, and acceptance. And one of the things about rose quartz that's very important is the color. This is a very rare, strong, very powerful form of rose quartz. And you can see that by the color, the depth of color. This is a standard, regular good grade rose quartz, and you can see how massive it is, but it doesn't have the depth of color that the big piece, that the polished pieces you just saw have. Now, we have clients that'll get one or two or several of the big pieces like this to put around their properties for a massive effect to get the rose quartz energy. Or they may go and buy a smaller sphere, palm-sized stone to hold, or little point. Again, we have our rose quartz jewelry, and you get a sense of, here again, there's that very high quality, intense rose quartz, where this is standard grade rose quartz. And rose quartz is a stone, if you're going to use it, unless you're fortunate to be able to get some of the darkest, most deep color rose quartz, you really want to get kind of the biggest piece you can for the purpose, because it has a softer, more subtle energy. And it's one of the cases where mass becomes much more important. Now, notice over here, this is a piece that'll give you a good idea of how the geodes of amethyst form. You can see this would be about half of the geode, and there would have been another piece completing it. You see the outer skin of the geode, and this is a material called celadonite. And then you look inside and you can see where the crystals started growing. Usually there's a layer of agate. And then now we're looking down into the the inner portion of the geode. Here I mentioned using black tourmaline. This is a black tourmaline sphere, huge black tourmaline sphere. And this, some of the pieces I hope we don't really ever sell. This is one of them. It's just such a unique piece. We've only ever gotten one this size. And you put this in any site. This could be in a large convention hall, and it would ground the entire place. So I've been talking for quite a while now, and I'd like to see, James, would you like to turn this over for questions, or is there some questions you'd like to ask me at this point?
Tell us a little bit about the certification training.
Oh, this is really great. So this is, comes from many years of working with these professionally myself, collaborating with colleagues of mine, one of them being Alex Stark, who has a lot of experience using crystals placed in a variety of commercial environments and homes. Another good friend of mine, Sharon Britton, is a client and a friend with a store in Florida. And she and I teamed up to go and create, well, she pulled me back into teaching Feng Shui. I had been kind of out of it because of the necessities of our crystal business. So I began teaching it again, but now that I had my knowledge of crystals, started incorporating that into the trainings. And then she and I collaborated over the last 2 years to put together a training where people could learn the crystal knowledge, the gridding techniques, and the Feng Shui components of what turned into crystal energy Feng Shui. So what we'll be doing in the course is there'll be some pre-work available, some resources where people can study in advance. People will receive a kit of crystals to work with prior to the course, so they have some direct experience. Then there'll be 4 days, and initially it'll be 4 intensive style days, where the mornings will be learning the basic knowledge base and some in-class demonstration and hands-on experience. And then the afternoons, particularly the second 2 days, we'll be going out to clients' homes and see how the crystal energy is used to adjust in real-world situations. Then there'll be an evaluation process where people will be able to see me. If you never ever see me before, here I am. You see my iPad, and this is the big mirror we have for the store. And so then we'll be going to have a portion where people will submit work that they've done for evaluation. And over I think the entire course will wind up being, what is it, James, 60 to 70 hours. And at the end, people will be able to be certified to practice crystal energy Feng Shui as professionals. And unlike other Feng Shui training that I've done over the years, where it took people, you would have to do, usually for the most people, if they were really gifted and going to be successful at it, they would take a first level course, 5-day intensive level, then do a second level course, and then maybe even do a mentoring level course. And at which point, the people that were ready and had the background could go out and start a practice. But with the crystal energy Feng Shui, we were really amazed at the success people had, even from the first weekend, being able to use it in their homes for their friends and their personal life. And by the end of the second weekend, they were coming up with solutions for making Feng Shui adjustments, very effective, powerful, elegant. And it was done at a center for yoga and massage, a large facility. And also we gave them little scenarios, creating grids to support different areas of a person's life. And the solutions they came up with were truly inspired. And so I was really happy, because this is a form of Feng Shui that can be taught and learned and practiced that's very, very effective, that's very elegant, and will bring excellent, excellent results without kind of all the mental complication and all the concern for the information, or people are doing the right thing, or what's important. Now, James, would you like to add something else in, like, what, I'm sure I forgot some of the things that we're going to be covering or talking about.
No, that's great. That's very succinct. We do have a couple of questions coming in. One from Hannah. She says, does it make a difference which type I use, i.e. natural or worked on, to make it a rock or a sphere?
So the basic gridding technique, all right, for a home or what you're going to be using.
Oh, you're covering your microphone again.
Yeah, here we go. I had to learn what that is. So the basic crystals to use are the unworked crystals. They'll also be the most. So I have to go and turn the phone off the next time I do this. So these are the least expensive, and they can be the most effective. You would use worked crystals if you wanted this in a visible place, you wanted them to be very aesthetically pleasing. And with the sphere shape, those would be used in specific grid applications where you wanted to have an energy that would radiate out into the space. For example, I'll come over here and show you. This is a big, huge quartz crystal we have here in our windowsill. And it's also something we'll be covering very, very thoroughly. in the courses where you can go and put, actually, I'll go and I'll show you right here. I'm going to grab a sphere off the table and bring it in the back, and I'll show you how you could use this. And usually would use something that was worked like this in connection with natural crystals. So you can see all I've done is put this sphere, I've simply put it in the center of this crystal grid. And since the points are placing outward, what this is going to do is take the energy of the sphere, which is going to clarify, balance, and harmonize the space, and move it outward all through the space. And you would typically do this on a tabletop or a central place in a room, and then that would radiate the energy out. Now, say we wanted to have a different effect. So what we can go is we can have the points go towards the sphere. And the effect of that, and this is what I love about this is so easy to understand on an intuitive and practical basis. You can see what we're doing now is we're channeling energy into the sphere. So it's a way to activate the sphere. And then once that sphere is activated, it's going to radiate the energy out through the whole space. And oftentimes what we'll do is, like say if it was the marriage area, or you wanted to harmonize relationship or give it a nice peaceful universal love quality, then we might replace this with a rose quartz sphere. Or if we wanted to add in the effects and the benefits from using citrine, we'd put a citrine sphere on the inside. And there are also different grids that you can make using all spheres or other components. And another way you could do this, you could use these same crystals here, and I'll show you how you could integrate a polished crystal with that. I'm going to come over and I'm going to go and take a nice vertical polished Lemurian sea quartz crystal. And then this is something that we could go and take and put it in the center. Now, because of its geometry and its shape, what that's going to do, the energy is going to come in, a certain portion will radiate off of the crystal, but then it'll also raise up and elevate the energy in the space. So very, very good for spiritual work, very, very good for meditation, any place where if you thought the energies were kind of heavy, or you just wanted to create an elevating feeling of consciousness. Now again, we could turn them around, and then what that would do, we would take that same energy, and then that would radiate it out into the room. And to just, kind of recap, for gridding the home, the energy unworked crystals would be best. And with the exception of using spheres to have more of a radiation or something like it's in the center, my preference is to use natural crystals. They retain all of the information of the crystal. And I'll show you here. Here's the natural piece of citrine. And you can see all of the different little facets that are on there. This is a shape that's called cathedral. And they're said to represent libraries of light. And you have all the power of the citrine. You can see my fingers through there. This is like super high quality citrine. And it was purposely not polished because it came out in excellent shape. Pretty much all of the crystals that have been polished are because when they came out, they were damaged. Maybe the point was broken off, or maybe they had some kind of an overgrowth on the outside from their formation, and you couldn't see to the citrine inside. Here's another really huge, massive, natural quartz, citrine quartz that we have. And again, this is right, and here's another really, you can say we really love citrine. And it's probably the most rare of the types of, and it sometimes can be the most expensive, but it also gives you excellent results. And that was why last June was when I found this huge 35 kilo crystal. It was part of a 300 kilo lot. And it had been probably 5 or 10 years since I'd seen anything of this quality. And we bought the entire lot. So anyway, I'm probably going too long on these answers, but you can tell this is my passion. I just love it.
Hey, Sean, we do have a couple other questions, but I just wanted to mention to everyone that Sean has made available some basic grids at a really phenomenal price. Had them written down here somewhere. Oh yeah, so that's a small grid, right?
But I'll show you right here. I'll take the centerpiece out. So this would be the small grid. They're going to be about 3 to 4 inches long. All natural
James?
quartz crystals.
Yeah.
The link is in the chat.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that up.
Yeah, so they can see the pricing there too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now these would be the medium size. And you can see there's a variety in the size. And what we do is when we select them, we go and we, balance the size. This kind of indicates the range that you can get. And if you weighed all of these crystals, even though this one looks longer and bigger, it's about the same weight as this piece. So that's what's important, is the mass. Now this would be the large size. And again, these are longer and thinner, but these are shorter and wider, and you're going after specific mass. So this would be the large size, the medium size, and the small size. And when we put these together, we make every set balanced. Okay?
Oh yeah, that's great. I'm just typing out the information. The small grid, Sean, is
67, medium grid is 127, and large grid is 227, and it includes shipping in the United States. All you have to do is click on the link. I'll put it back in there because it went up at the top. It's bit.ly crystal special. And why don't you just go to the web page, James, so they can just see what it looks like?
Okay, and I've got the address up here on the screen. You should be able to see that. So yeah, bit.ly crystal special. And I don't think you need the HTTP, so I'll just check that real quick.
Well, it makes it clickable if you put HTTP, that's it.
Okay. Just pull it up real quick here.
If you just click on the link in the chat, it'll take you right to the page.
Right. Yeah, you can click on it in the chat, and that's what it looks like there. There's the page. So they're all included. The shipping's included. Phenomenal deal. Really a phenomenal deal. There's a couple other questions, Sean. Do we have time for a couple other ones? You're covering your...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something. So here we go. So what's our next question? I can't hear you now, James.
Can I make a grid for a 2-level house from the ground floor?
Yes. Now the principle, and this is something I learned a long time ago from Jess Lim, Master Jess Lim. And they had done a lot of work. That was really my first introduction to using crystals from the perspective of Feng Shui by someone who had really done a lot of work with this. It was work they had done in Europe. And so the general principle is the lowest down you can get it. And this could be either on the ground or in the basement or a lower room. The influence will go all the way up through the house. And this is particularly important if you're going to use the crystals to go and adjust for geomagnetic stress. And that was really the specific location for geomagnetic stress. Another technique that they used was to put them under a bed of someone, again, who was under geomagnetic stress that was affecting their health. And they would use 2 of the crystals, pretty much 2 of the medium-sized ones, and they would put one above the other and do it right along the central line under the bed. And that could be directly under the bed, or it could be on the floor below, or all the way down at the underside of the house, and that would still produce the effect. And after learning that, probably my first experience using the crystals with a client, I had a client who had done a lot of work with me over the years. They had they owned the Learning Annex in San Francisco. I taught many, many classes through them on Feng Shui. And the owner had developed a health problem because she had this tumor mass. It was really an inoperable tumor mass. It was all through her chest area, and there was nothing they could do about it. And so she turned to alternative healing. And one of the things that was told to her was that they found evidence of geomagnetic stress. So she called me in. I did some dowsing work, some pendulum dowsing work, and that's what we'll cover that in the training, and determined that there were a series of lines, energy lines, that were crossing directly under her bed and also where she worked every day. And what I did was selected crystals from my inventory that crossed and were in the exact geometry of the lines. And she had them installed under the crawl space directly on the earth below those areas. And over the course of the next few months, she went back and was tested, and that was told the geomagnetic stress influence had been removed, and the mass and tumor went away. And it was pretty cool. And that was one of those things where you try a new technique and you realize that there's always something new to learn, and also the efficacy of the crystals. Now, once we started using the grids, we determined that it really wasn't necessary to douse every line and make a specific grid, just for that site. Using the grids like we've talked about today, and along with the geometry and the configuration of the home. So, for example, the home had a projection or not so much a regular shape. You would put a few extra crystals in at every corner. But once you establish that field, everything inside was balanced, and it would take care of any geomagnetic stress or problems from how they developed the site, earthquake fault lines, could be some underground power lines near the area. It just generated that balanced, harmonious field. So you didn't have to be so, you didn't have to put so much work into it, dowsing every possible line that might cross or come as an influence to the space, like you would normally do using dowsing to solve an earth energy problem.
We have another question from Acer. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing your names correctly, but this person wants to know if you do any work with Andara crystals.
Andara glass? Is that what she's referring to? Andara glass, because if it is Andara's glass, is a type of glass that we discovered a certain part of it in California, near the, one of the, with the Donner Pass in that area. And there's some questions about the origin of it, and there are many different kind of colors. I have a friend that works with that almost exclusively. And it's something Andara glass, the energy of that could be incorporated into a grid. It's not something that we really work with or have much as part of our stock, because we focus more on actual crystals and sourced in Brazil and other places, and glass. I mean, here we go. Here's some glass prisms. These are Swarovski crystal prisms. And again, we have the magic time of every afternoon when the sun comes around and makes rainbows through and activates the space. But this is glass crystal. It's manufactured, and it's not real natural crystal that'll have a crystal matrix in a structure. And so we've just kind of, besides these Swarovski crystals, we've just decided to focus more on just the natural crystals. Although, as I mentioned, I have friends that use the Andara glass, and there's a big, wide range of colors. And the colors and the energies, that would go along with, I'll show you here. That's the way of working with the chakras. So this is some chakra jewelry we have, where you're using the colors of the crystals and the energy of the crystals to adjust chakras. And that's how people often use the many different colors of the Andara glass, so that they can go and One second, I'm just going to turn my phone off here. Hopefully I won't lose the iPad connection. I won't have any more. There we go. Oh, we don't have any more calls coming in. And they'll use that for specific energy adjustments. And it's, kind of a way of using colors and the chakra. And the scientific part of it is what you can call the gem effect. I'll go back to the rose quartz. How gems work, and this is whether it's a diamond, quartz, fluorite, whatever you're using as a gem, is light enters the crystal. So it's entering the crystal. And when it enters the crystal, it slows down. And then might bounce around on the inside. And you think of a diamond, how the light comes in, but then the light comes out of it again and sparkles. And when it goes into the crystal, it slows down. And then part of its color is absorbed. What's not absorbed comes back out of the crystal. And once it reaches the surface, it comes out and goes back to the speed of light and air. And so what you're actually getting is light energy, colored light energy coming out of the crystal. And that's whether it's a natural crystal or the Andara glass. And that's kind of the scientific basis of how it's influencing you.
Looks like we have one more question.
Okay, great.
From Karen, does the sun fade the coloring of crystals? Should grid placement not be subject to sunlight?
Well, that would only be the case with amethyst.
Hmm.
And amethyst, you would normally use amethyst for gridding, unless it was, part of an internal grid, inside a home. You could use it as maybe a focal part, or actually we used a big amethyst piece in a crystal temple we did. But you have to make sure that it's not going to be in strong, direct sunlight. James and I have a friend, Randy, and I gave him this big, beautiful piece of amethyst, which he put outside in his garden in the North San Juan sun. And after the first season, it was colorless. And that amethyst is the only type of quartz I know that will exhibit that effect. But the other quartz, the clear quartz, the citrine, the rose quartz, the black tourmaline, you can put it out in the sun as long as you want, and it'll have little to no effect. And amethyst is the only one you have to worry about. And if you wanted to use it outside, you would just make a cover over it. So it would stay in shade or put some plants around it. And as long as it didn't get direct sun, it would be fine.
Yeah, Karen just mentioned that's why her amethyst cluster is fading.
Yeah,
Well,
guarantee it's one of those things that, like people will tell you something, and my students in Brazil, my Feng Shui students, when they started learning about the crystals and, telling me about different things, they said, oh, amethyst will fade. It's one of those things that I was going, I wonder if that's really true. And I sure discovered that. I have friends that, they'll have, well, actually this piece here, this big, huge piece. When I bought it, it was outside at the mine in Ametista do Sul, Brazil, in full sun, and I was concerned about it and said, it's not going to hurt it to be out here for a few weeks or so. That's not going to do anything. And so, again, it could be there for a little while, but I wouldn't leave it there, for any extended period of time. And I have a friend that he deals exclusively in Uruguayan amethyst. So this is kind of good for people to see. See how dark this amethyst is? And the crystals are somewhat smaller. This is amethyst from Uruguay. And you can get Brazilian amethyst that's this dark, but it's more common to get it from Uruguay. And he will not let amethyst sit out in the sun, even for, part of a day, because he really wants to keep the color as strong as it can be. And he's also someone that likes big, huge geodes. And so one year at the Tucson show, for the Tucson show is the biggest gem show of the year. It's in Tucson, California. And what he did was he partnered with another dealer, and they shipped, I think, 3 big, huge geodes over. And these things were like 12 feet tall. And One of them was finally sold and went to Arizona, where it was put outside in the sun. And after a year or two, the color was completely gone. And it was really, it was really sad. Now, a lot of people got to see it through the course of the, being there. But it would have been a lot better if it had gone to a hotel or someone's home where it could have kept the color. And that's one thing about the crystals. The ones we use, that Brazil is very, very good with ethical mining, respecting the environment, making sure the miners are paid. And all our crystals are treated with love, care, and respect and kept in the best condition possible. And we hope when we go out into the world, that holds true. Because, they're sort of selfless, energetic crystal beings. And they're just happy to serve and be wherever. And so sometimes people are concerned about them coming out of the earth, and it's not depleting the energy of the earth at all. It's going and letting them participate in the world. And more important is that once they're out and people use them, that they continue to respect them, literally as beings, other beings on the planet.
Well, that's excellent, Sean. Thank you so much for sharing this information. I speaking for myself, I know it's completely fascinating. And I started working with Sean last year with the crystals, and Helen and I set up a rose quartz small grid in our bedroom, and then a large energy grade crystal grid for the entire house. And it just completely changed, the atmosphere of the home. It's just beautiful.
James, I remember you telling me you were doing a class and one of your students had a migraine and you called Sean. Was that the grid that pointed out that he showed at the beginning? I think we should talk about that.
Yeah, that's right. I did a class in Seattle, and I rented an Airbnb home to do the class in, and not knowing that when I arrived and I measured the electromagnetic fields, they were off the chart, just super high. And one of my students had, on the first day of class, I noticed that she was rubbing her head and looked pretty miserable. And I asked her what was going on. And she said, she gets migraines occasionally, and she had a super bad one. And so I contacted Sean. Actually, he had sent me the crystals. I got them the day before the class, but I hadn't set them up yet. So at lunch, I set up the grids. I set up 2 grids, one just in the room I was teaching in, and then the entire house. And I didn't tell anybody. And when she came back from lunch, she goes, "Oh, wow, my headache just disappeared." And she didn't have it the rest of the time. So it definitely raises your own personal vibration to be able to counteract, that EMF energy.
James, that's what I love about Feng Shui is it's miracles. And Sean has heard these stories over and over. James has, I have. And it always just amazes me every time I hear something like that happen. And it was quick, wasn't it? She walked in. It wasn't like wait an hour for the energy to settle. You're very popular today.
You're getting phone calls left and right.
Instantaneous.
I know.
Yeah, and that's the simplicity and the beauty of it, is that you can feel the results right away. It's not like you're waiting a few months or weeks to see if the cures are going to work. The energy shift happens as soon as you put the crystals in place, and then they'll settle in and it'll get stronger and more stable. But it's very, very noticeable right from the start.
If you have questions and want James to unblock you also, you can raise your hand where you're going to just click where it says participants and it says raise your hand. And if you do that, then James can unblock you so we can answer everybody's questions because we like to honor the time and it's almost an hour here. So if you have questions, please raise your hand.
Yeah, another thing I'd like to share, Brenny, is that, I started this was fun for me. It was like, wow, I can bring these crystals back. It's kind of cool. People like them. And then just as when I started studying Feng Shui, you realize there's this whole other dimension that you're participating in. I remember the first time after I did a chi adjustment ceremony, I just learned it from Professor Lin the week before, got the materials and did it and drove it away. And this is like, I had been doing spiritual work and meditation, gosh, for 20 years. And sensing and feeling the effect that it had was amazing. And it let me realize the depth and the extent of what I was starting to be involved in and how appreciative I was. And the same thing happened with the crystals. And even it's like very nice. So here's Professor Lynn up here. This is from when I went and taught down in Mexico.
Our monkey.
And so we had a woman come in, Asian woman, Chinese background. She came in with some friends that knew our store, had been to our store, and we were running her in to see. And she walked in the door and she started crying. And she was very embarrassed. She said, I'm sorry, I'm crying. I don't know what's happening. And I said, hey, this is normal. This happens all the time here. We're totally used to this. We have people come in and they said, oh, I had a dream about a crystal yesterday. And here it is right on the shelf. This is the exact one I dreamed about. And so she started looking around and she saw Professor Lin's photo. And she asked me about him. I said, this is my Feng Shui master, Master Lin Yun. This is all because of him. I went to Brazil teaching and consulting. And she had been aware of him and actually had lived in New York. And I reminded her, well, he has his, temple there. And even though he's physically gone, you can connect with him. And she was so thrilled and so happy. And she got a crystal to bring with her and, meditate with and have for energy. But it's just like one of the ways that this, we're all part of something that has a much bigger effect on the world. And it's like our own small destinies, become leveraged by being able to participate with the support of the crystals and learn techniques from Feng Shui. So I'm very, very pleased to have been able to have this time together with you. As you can see, I could probably do this I do this all day. Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity, Brenny and James, and thanks to Master Lin.
We've been trying to get Sean on here for a while because I interviewed Sean a few years ago on a summit, and I said, that man is passionate about what he does and so knowledgeable. It just blew me away. So we are honored to have you show up for our students, and we really, really appreciate it because I could listen to this all day.
Yeah, sure. Me too.
Now, before we go, I want to go and here's my son, Daniel. He's been very nice, he's actually working in the store today. And back when he was 10 years old, I think he came on the first training that I did. It was 92, James, or 93?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Dan might have, 12 or 13? And he was part of the class, and he actually, hey, look at the good friends from down in Southern California.
Hey,
We're excited to be
Yeah,
here.
Karen and Kathy, and we'll be at a show in Santa Ana, California. And they'll be there helping me out. They do a lot of crystal energy work. What a perfect timing.
Yeah.
Anyways, I wanted to thank Daniel, and Daniel was
students,
assisted in the very first class that Helen and James came to.
Hey,
Yeah.
Sean, one of my students, Justine Hernandez, is going to stop by and see you this month.
Oh, great. Super.
Cool. Well, thank you all. If you go to the bit.ly page that Brenny put up, you can also register for information from Sean, and we'll get the email addresses to him. And we'll let you know about the certification program. And if anybody wants to take advantage of those grids, do it before they're gone, because I think they're going to go fast.
So the link again
Although
is,
we'll honor that price. We'll set up a special page, and we'll, after this special, we'll honor that price and make them available to all of you.
so if you're not seeing it, people, the link is bit.ly/crystal special. We're also posting that on our event pages on Facebook, so you can find that quite easily. And if you like this kind of information and want to follow James and myself, we are always loving new students, and we love to bring experts in like this. You can go, the link is also in there. It's thefsuniversity.com/start. We do calls twice a month for $27. It's a great membership.
Hey, Sean, it's nice to see
Hey,
everybody.
Daniel, just taking the iPad.
I
You
recognize that
This
guy.
guy, if you don't know me, that's been talking for an hour and just raving about the crystals. But again, thank you so much for participating. And, you know, we'll have my contact information available. Feel free to contact me about any aspect about crystals, how you can participate. It's our mission to connect people with crystals and crystal energy. So it creates a relationship where you can bring them into your life and then out into the world.
Thank you, Sean. Blessings to everybody. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you all for showing up. And again, any questions, just shoot us an email, and have a great day.